You've spent a lifetime wearing silence like armor. You learned early, maybe before you could even name the feeling, that your emotions were too loud, too messy, or too inconvenient for the people who mattered most. You became the child who smiled when they were hurting, who nodded when their chest was aching, who learned to swallow the raw, jagged edges of fear, shame, or longing. And here is the paradox. The very thing that saved you, hiding your pain, has become the very thing that sabotages your life. It kept you safe when you were small, but now as an adult, it keeps you invisible, unheard, and isolated. You walk through the world quietly, sometimes believing you are protecting yourself. But beneath the calm exterior, your nervous system is still alert, still bracing for storms that may never come. You are living inside a shadow of vigilance, a careful mimicry of normalcy, while the suppressed parts of you ache for recognition. The truth is, this hidden pain is not a flaw. It is a survival mechanism encoded in the very way your mind and body learn to navigate an unsafe emotional landscape. And understanding that is the first step toward reclaiming the life you silently long for. Psychologists often describe this child as developing a form of hypervigilance, a state in which the nervous system is perpetually scanning for danger, emotional cues, or disapproval. Imagine a radar constantly spinning, alert to every shift in tone, every fleeting glance, every unspoken threat. Hypervigilance is adaptive in childhood, but in adulthood it manifests as chronic anxiety, overthinking, and difficulty relaxing. Another key concept is parentification, a role reversal in which the child becomes a caretaker for their caregiver's emotional needs. You may have learned to monitor moods, to anticipate needs, to withhold your own feelings so as not to burden or anger the adults around you. You became a miniature adult, trained in empathy but starved of validation. Finally, consider avoidant attachment, a relational blueprint where closeness feels dangerous and vulnerability is fraught with fear. This attachment style develops in response to early emotional neglect, teaching the child to hide their internal world. Over time, this internalized rule, do not show pain, do not ask for help, becomes a core part of identity. These three forces, hypervigilance, parentification, avoidant attachment, intertwine, shaping the brain and nervous system. The amygdala becomes easily triggered, the prefrontal cortex learns to suppress emotional expression, and the default mode network grows adept at ruminating over imagined threats. Simply put, your body remembers what your conscious mind may have long forgotten. What is the price of this hidden survival? It is the quiet grief of authenticity sacrificed at the altar of safety. It is the exhaustion of constantly negotiating your own feelings against the unspoken rules of a household or a society that cannot accommodate them. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." And for a child who hides pain, the fear of being fully seen is paralyzing. Vulnerability felt like danger. And so authenticity became a luxury you could not afford. Every achievement, every relationship, every fleeting moment of joy is tinged with this invisible cost. You may have learned to smile, to perform competence, to appear calm, but beneath it all, there is a reservoir of quiet suffering. Moments that should feel light, like laughter or connection, are shadowed by an unconscious fear. The fear that if you show too much, you will be rejected, dismissed, or abandoned. This is the subtle tyranny of suppressed pain. It is invisible, yet persistent. It is a weight carried silently, often unacknowledged, yet it shapes every decision, every hesitation, every act of self-denial. These childhood survival strategies morph into adult behaviors, often unnoticed until they create undeniable friction. You might recognize some of these patterns. Chronic people-pleasing. You bend over backward to avoid conflict or rejection, often at your own expense. Emotional numbing. Feeling deeply is frightening, so you unconsciously suppress joy, grief, and love alike. Difficulty setting boundaries. Saying no triggers a flashback to that frightened child who believed saying no would provoke harm. Fear of intimacy. Relationships feel perilous because vulnerability feels like exposure, not connection. Overachievement and perfectionism. Success becomes a shield, a way to prove your worth without showing your inner life. Self-sabotage. Deep down, you may unconsciously reproduce familiar patterns of neglect or emotional withholding. It is crucial to understand that these are coping strategies, not defects of character. They were the mechanisms that allowed a vulnerable child to survive unpredictable or unavailable caregivers. The first step to unlearning is witnessing, acknowledging the pattern without judgment, naming it without shame, and understanding it as a survival blueprint, not a personal failure. By tracing these behaviors back to their origins, you can start to separate who you were as a protective child from who you are as an adult capable of choice, growth, and healing. Healing begins with recognition and compassion. It is the radical act of telling the small, hidden child inside you, I see you, I hear you, you were doing the best you could. Practices like inner child reparenting allow you to offer the validation and care you lacked, while shadow work illuminates the parts of yourself that were suppressed or denied. You can also begin to choose softness, allowing yourself to pause, to feel, to ask for help. It is terrifying at first because the nervous system expects danger, but slowly these small acts of tenderness rewire your internal landscape. Philosopher Simone Weil once reflected, attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity. Offering this attention inward, toward your own experience, is the cornerstone of reclaiming wholeness. The child who hid their pain does not need to vanish. They need acknowledgement. The adult you are now can honor that survival while gently dismantling the walls built to protect a once fragile self. You are not broken. You are a witness to a survival story that demanded strength, ingenuity, and subtlety. And now you can allow yourself to live fully, not in the shadow of your past, but in the presence of your reclaimed authenticity. Remember, healing is not about being fixed. It is about becoming whole. And in becoming whole, you finally give your hidden pain a voice. And in that voice, you find freedom.